sometime as we go.
Ish. We are ish. No, we are live, folks. So, welcome to the random generated party. Today we have generated a party of three.
Hey guys,
Maybe some stragglers might come in later. You know, you have to adjust for the gaming session that shows up for you.
party of
But
three between the size of our guts, Eric. We might be more like 4.5, 5. If
you
you
never
add
know.
just bulk, you know what I mean. We're none of us are exactly thin.
Tally our wage, divide by 200, and that's how many people we are.
I'm 2, almost.
I've gotten myself again. It's not gamer's health, but I've gotten myself down to a 38-inch waist. So,
Nice, man. Nice. Very
Good job.
Good. Fucking hey.
I'm working on it.
Yeah, that's awesome, dude. That's awesome. I joined the gym about 3 weeks ago, and 2 days after I joined the gym, I got the beer bug. I'm like, fuck. So now, so this weekend I'm inaugurating the gym visits. I got a deal, 3 months for $99. I'm like, all right, I'd even eat that, you know?
Yeah. And after that, you get raked over the coals.
Folks, yeah, they kill you.
Random generated party. This is what you got for the moment. It's Joe the lawyer to stage right.
Yeah.
And below us, right down there somewhere. There we go. I mean, is none other than Rob Conley. So we do have a good show for you. And yes, Paul, I'm going to catch up to your comments. It's going to take me a while because Dan, you gave us a lot of comments to start up with. Paul is talking about the free OSR RPG rule sets that are linked at the blog over at tenkarstavern.com. Yes, they are free. No, they are not free in print. So apparently he went down the rabbit hole of getting this stuff in print, and God bless you, man. Lulu was not too bad with a coupon, but you can't always get one. Osric and Dark Dungeons on my Lulu list. I don't know what the Albatross mapping journals are. Rob, do you know?
Huh, I never heard of that one.
Yeah, I don't know.
Albatross mapping journals.
Well, you know, I'm a wizard of this Google stuff, so I will find it.
All right.
Google Master.
Rob's going to Google Foo. Google Foo. Lulu is the gift on keeps on giving. Listen, when Lulu has a sale, you can get some very good stuff on it. Now, I believe that the print quality with Lulu versus drive-through, 6, I don't know, a half dozen with one, 6 of another. It then depends on the title, depends on the paperweight.
Yeah, that's what I've noticed.
But for the most part, I've been happy with both. Earlier drive-through stuff was a little iffy. They've gotten a lot better. Mm-hmm. But then again, you get the paper you pay for. If they're using light paper with color ink on drive-through, it's likely going to suck. It'll bleed through.
I will say I'm bummed that they got rid of Staddle Stitch.
You're not the only one, Rob. Yeah. A lot of people complained about that.
But it's not a drive-through issue. It's a lightning source issue that they decided to get rid of it.
Yeah, it wasn't profitable enough for them. I'm not saying it wasn't profitable for the publishers, but for the ones that were actually supplying it. And this is before COVID, right? It's that they did away with that.
I think so. Yeah, it's been a while.
My understanding was that their equipment needed to be upgraded, and it was just easier to not upgrade the equipment and just not do it anymore.
Yeah, that's too bad. You know,
so those of you with the Saddle Stitch Splash Mark tank, it's now a collector's item. There's no more being printed.
Wow.
It's all perfect.
Ooh.
Wonder if I have it.
I can sell an overnight for like $100.
Yeah, look at that. Eric, I mean, you're talking about your games.
I'll still complain.
Yeah, you're talking about your games. Oh, my God. Here he is.
I told you there were likely stragglers.
Uh-oh.
And
now there's trouble.
Gnome just walked in.
Just for you, Matt.
Is he wearing his tighty whities? That's the burning question we all have on our mind.
They're khaki shorts. I don't understand.
Tighty whities. We know. It's okay.
Well, we understand. We just bust your balls anyway.
John Miller and James Seymour have a discussion about Hyperborea. The question was, any idea why some people think Hyperborea is the best OSR rule set? I can tell you why I think it's up there. I think it's the perfect blend of swords and sorcery in the old style, right? Without Tolkien, it's everything D&D was, but take out all the Tolkien shit, right? And he's integrated classes. There's no races other than human. There's like I don't know, ethnicities, if you want to call it that. I guess he has Celts, he has all the Romans, blah blah blah. But there's no races other than humans. It's swords and sorcery, and everything that he has done with his character classes is blended into the setting. And so what you're getting with Hyperborea is not just a game system, you're getting a setting integrated with the game system all in one. Whereas 5e or the D&D books, you can use this in Greyhawk, use this in Mystara, use this in Forgotten Realms, right? And so his stuff is integrated seamlessly, and it has attitude, and is extremely well written. And Jeff Talanian is a cool motherfucker. I think that's pretty much where it comes down for me. He's a cool guy. And Hyperborea, I backed his new 3rd edition. He finally, I don't know, I'm going to say he took my advice, but I'm sure it wasn't the only one I was saying this. He finally broke out the player's handbook and the DM guide into 2 separate books. And that's shipping out. Whoever backed it, I got an email the other day. It's coming out soon. And they want to verify my backer kit address.
I think that it's going to be shipping, I think it's July.
July? Okay. Yeah.
Listen, I have the original box. I have the original box set.
Oh, nice. Nice.
Okay. And I'm, and no, that's not part of my.
I was about to ask. I missed out on that one.
It's not part of my downsizing, folks. So don't. I've already had people asking me for a list of OSR stuff that I'm getting rid of, and it's like there's no list. Won't be part of the initial, likely. But
I have the original box set as well.
It's a nice box.
With that spiral ring bound thing, right?
Yep. It was given to me by a friend, so I can't get rid of it.
Yeah.
I can tell you, I flipped through it.
You like it?
It's another game system. I mean,
whatever. Yeah.
I don't know. I don't pick my game systems by how cool the author is. Just
yeah. Oh, hey, he's a cool dude. You met him?
Well, that's cool, but it doesn't mean I'm going to play his game.
Yeah. No, his ethos in gaming comes out in his book. It's like Raji, right? He's the most kind of Raji in that he's different ethos or whatever. He's heavy, he's heavy metal, with Raji's death metal, whatever you want to call it. But his personal philosophy and ethos of what D&D is and should be comes out in his book. It's like a clear expression of who he is, which I kind of dig. That's the same thing with Raji.
I think you kind of hit it on the head. You said, and I paraphrasing here, and I'm not that familiar with the rule set, but you said it was D&D without the Tolkien influence.
Yeah.
So if that's what you envision fantasy to be, I can definitely see why that is a draw. Like for me, my fantasy, I don't know what you want to call it, background is pretty thin because I was never a fan of Tolkien. I always thought it's dry, horrible writing, written like a college history book. I found boring, so there you go. I lost all my OSR cred.
Oh, well, at least Rob is giving you the evil eye. I can see right now. Rob's a big Tolkien guy.
In college,
James Bond here, he'd give you a tongue lashing.
Yeah, I took a fantasy literature course in college.
Really?
And honestly, I loved what is it? King Arthur.
The Once and Future King?
Yes, one of the best books.
Okay.
And then actually, this I'm sure everybody will be like, oh my god, but oh geez, I just did a total blank.
You're gonna say McCamey, weren't you?
No, Peter Pan.
Oh, Peter Pan, really?
Yes, definitely a great fan. I mean, and this was it wasn't just D&D fantasy. It was a fantasy literature as a whole.
Interesting.
It was excellent. But we read part of the Silmarillion, and I wanted to gouge my eyeballs out with a rubber chicken.
It's like
they picked the Silmarillion over the Lord of the Rings.
I would rather not read either one of them. But
wait a minute. Your class picked the Silmarillion over.
No. This was the days before professors gave a shit what the students said, and he picked his own books, and we read those.
Well, I know, but the professor picked the Silmarillion over Lord of the Rings.
Oh, yeah. Oh I distinctly remember sitting in the cafeteria chugging Jolt Cola to stay awake while I tried to read through what is essentially a college history book written in the manner of the Bible,
The Book of Genesis. Who begot who begot who?
Yeah. I like the Silmarillion, but I am not that rabid a fan to realize it's not everybody's cup of tea.
I
think the Lord of the Rings the Lord of the Rings, I think, is a genuine classic of the English language. But a professor of fantasy literature to include that over Lord of the Rings, what the hell that professor was smoking? I don't know.
I can tell you the Once and Future King blew me away. One of the great. I mean, I know Joe and I have talked about Raymond Feist before.
Yeah.
That was really my fantasy growing up.
Too.
And then I branched off and I read a little bit of Conan. And then I tried to read a little bit of Tad Williams, which way too epic-y kind of thing. But I never really got into the whole sword and sandal. And like Elric, I'm going to lose a whole bunch of OSR cred here. Hated it.
Really?
Oh, blah. Why don't we all get high and try to read a bunch of fantasy now or write a bunch of fantasy novels?
I like the Elric stuff.
So
I got 3 versions. I got 3 different versions of the complete Elric because Moorcock is a money grubbing bastard, and he just changes a word in one of the stories, puts out 7 new books, and says all new and revised.
Really?
Motherfucker!
Oh,
It's cost me a fortune, man.
He's Colonel Champion, so you got to reread the story in virtual setting changes.
Yeah,
but it's the same soul going through. Oh yeah, Elric was the best of those, and I enjoyed Elric for what it was.
Mm-hmm.
Corum I enjoyed less so, and Cornelius, whatever the fuck his name was, that's where I was like
the British guy in
I was bored in that point.
That was a lot. Yeah.
So Matt, if you like Rift War, you might like the Deed of Paxnarium by Elizabeth Moon, or that's the omnibus. The trilogy is A Sheep Farmer's Daughter, Divided Allegiance, and Oath of Gold. But you might like that.
Hold on, let me caveat. Any book of Hey Matt you might like needs to start with how many pages are there in the book?
And we've all hit that age, I think.
Yeah.
You notice that?
They're about as thick as they're actually less thick than the Rift War.
Well, yeah, but I was 12 when I was reading it. Nowadays, I pick up a book and I swear I pick up every book and I look at the page count. Then I go, book 1 of, oh, hell no.
Oh, yeah.
No, you got more than 3 books. I promise you I can cut out a third of each one of those books and the book will be a better read. It'll be easier for people to comprehend. People will understand it and like it better than your encyclopedic verbiage that's 700 pages long. Oh, and there's 4
That's
volumes.
not the case with Elizabeth Moon's work.
No, what was her name? I didn't hear it. What was it?
Elizabeth Moon.
Elizabeth.
I think you recommended one of hers, and I got it, Rob. It's on my stack of books to read.
I mean, she did write additional books, but she did a smart thing with the follow-up to the Deed of Paxnarium. She focused on other characters. She told their story rather than continue Paxnarium. So the first 3 books are complete. You really don't need the rest to get.
Yeah, and see, I could buy that. You got a story you're going to tell, and it's a book, and then you're like, hey, I'm going to continue the story with some side characters or other characters that were popular. I can dig that. I'm going. In honor of you, I'm going to download the free Kindle sample.
So,
Deed of whatever it was, Pex.
So it is the best example of a D&D style paladin that I has ever seen. In fact, she admits that she wrote the novel because she got in on a D&D game, saw them playing a paladin, debating the paladin, the usual debates that all gamers have about lawful good and paladin. She thought, that's stupid. I could do a better job writing this. And she did.
That's cool.
Wow, she was a lieutenant in the Marines.
Yeah. Oh, she has a bunch of science fiction books. I'm not sure if you'll like them, and she's more expansive with those books than she is with the Paxnarium book. But
you would have had him in Army. You would have had him in Army, Rob.
Well, there's an Easter egg, Matt, in the book. There's going to be a very, very familiar place that you'll run into. It's by a different name. She filed off the serial number, but it's definitely the same car.
Okay.
Bob G. I never read Gore. I have one of the books. I have the first Gore book just because somebody recommended it to me.
Oh, it's fucking insipid. Don't waste your time.
I heard, but I do agree with the Black Company. The first few books. After that, it was a stupid thing. You know, he kept having people come back to life. You think they're dead. Next thing you know, they're reincarnated somewhere else. I'm like, fuck you. You know, that's just, it leads to the multiverse problem where you never actually kill Iron Man, right? But yeah, Glenn Cook's first few books in the Black Company series was fantastic. I enjoyed it.
I've tried to read a couple of. I think it's that series of his too, but I couldn't get. I'm a finicky, weird freaking reader. If you give me some really bizarre cover with a really crazy, probably not urban fantasy because that makes me sound like some sort of millennial, but like. Not Dresden, but something weird like that.
Dresden. Love Dresden.
Yeah, something weird kind of like that. That's I read a couple series or a book that there was. I ended up being 3 of them, so I'm going against what I said earlier. But it was it had to do with the guy who ended up being able to see demons, and he worked at a convenience store. It was actually very hilarious. But that's the weird kind of shit I read. I don't like getting the epic fantasies. But anyway,
worked at a convenience store for 7 years, and the demons were just the customers, I think.
Well, that's what he was talking about. He was like,
especially third shift.
Do you really think they're human? Of course they're not. They're freaking demons and devils because they're so freaking whacked out.
Those third shift people were a breed all their own, I gotta say. You know, they really were.
I got into the Dorini series by Catherine Kirk. That was pretty good. That's about that. The Dorini series is about a vaguely medieval world. Think of like Harn, okay? That kind of fantasy medieval, you know. But the wrinkle is that, and there's even a Catholic church, a Christian church, not quite Catholic. It's organized, but it's not a direct. It's Christian, but it's got its own history. Anyway, the wrinkle is that there's not just humans, there is a subrace of humans called Dairini, and they are inherently magical and they have psionic powers. And it's detailed, but it's also very grounded. I mean, they just can't whip out things, but they're definitely got an edge because of it. And it's their story. You know, they used to rule, then they got overthrown, and they got prosecuted, and then there's a series where they took later in the timeline where they are coming back, and all in all, I really like it. But
Horse Clans
very atmospheric.
Was that
Horse Clans was mentioned. I never read it, although I own all the GURPS stuff for Horse Clans, so maybe I'll put that. Probably Rob wants that fucking shit if he doesn't have it.
I will say the one series that I've absolutely just loved reading, and then unfortunately it is a very long series, was the Bernard Cornwell, The Last Kingdom. The TV show is based on it, but it's the Saxon Tales with.
You know, I haven't started reading the books yet, but I love the TV series. I need to start reading the books.
The books, I mean, after about, I don't know, 8, it gets a little bit repetitious because it's like, oh, look, he's going to lead a bunch of Saxons to go fight against yet more Vikings or Danes. And mysteriously, he's going to come up with a unique tactical advantage that's going to win the day. But, I mean, the story is great. The characters are freaking fantastic.
So it's not like the series where, like, he seems to finally get in a place and he fucks it up somehow, and now he's in trouble again.
Every single book just about starts with him like, I finally found it. I've got my family and my farm and my 3 kids. Oh shit! And then all of a sudden everything goes to hell. And then it's like, okay, now we're back. The Danes are invading. But I mean, if you look at British history, unfortunately, you know, every couple decade or so they did that, and that's exactly kind of how it goes. But it's a great series anyway.
Eric, you know what's really funny? Remember when we first started doing this and you and I just joined in and just like, what are we gonna talk about? I don't know. And then we just started talking about shit, right? And then when we said, hey, let's do it a regular thing with our gaming group and Rob and Greg and Tim and Matt and this and that. And then Rob, everyone was like, hey, it's like 5 days ahead of time. What are we gonna talk about? And we're like, I don't know. We find out at
No,
7:45
No. We knew what we were going to talk about
tonight. Yeah,
right. I think we knew about it days ago, but we have.
I even went to the effort.
But we're it's like herding cats.
Yeah,
Joe.
yeah. There was a plan 23 minutes ago. We were going to talk about Jay quitting the dungeon.
But you know what? Not for nothing. We have a live audience that makes excellent comments, excellent observations, asks great questions.
That's the best part.
So I mean, they kind of lead us off into rabbit holes. So I mean,
it's all your fault, guys. It's all your fault.
Suggestion not to read anything by Donaldson. What? You don't like lepers?
Stephen R.
You have a problem with people with leprosy?
Are you talking about Thomas Covenant?
Oh, yeah. Thomas Covenant. Oh, okay.
Oh my God, that was the series that I hated reading but couldn't stop.
Really?
Oh yeah, he was like a whiner and an asshole.
Yes.
Yeah. I started it and I stopped for that reason. I just like this guy. What's the heroic shit about this bitch? You know, even like 13, I'm like, this is lame.
I felt bad because the writer wrote well. It's just the character, the point of view character was like, I don't want to read about this guy.
Yeah.
Oh my God, he was such an ass. Even when he wasn't an ass, he was an ass. I was reading that in high school, and I don't remember why I finished the series.
Oh, hey, Paul has a question for us, it looks like.
To the panel. Whoa, we're a panel.
Uh-oh.
That's an upgrade, isn't it?
We've been upgraded, guys. We need to put our suit and ties on.
Damn, we got to get my name is Panel Man. You know, I thought it was just a fucking peanut gallery.
You're on the panel. You're not just a panel man. You're on the panel. Is the industry growing, falling, or status quo?
It's a two-parter. I have to think the industry is on an uptick. That's what. I don't know. What do you think?
Now we're saying the
industry. I got data, but you guys talk while I find it.
All right.
Wait. Well, hold on. I got a question for Paul. When he says RPG community, what is he talking about? Because I mean, here we typically are OSR focused, but is he talking about the OSR or is he talking about the RPG community as a whole, meaning all the games and all that stuff?
The RPG community is siloed, so I don't think you could really say it's growing or not. You know what I'm saying? There's like so many silos now.
Yeah, but you can still see, like, you can look at Kickstarter and see, oh, some other project did over $1 million.
That's true.
That's a heavenly fuck.
Yeah.
You know?
But you have actually a direct measure. If you have a lot of orders on Drive to RPG, which I do because of Black Marsh.
Right.
I mean, not a lot of money sales because they're all taking the free download, but there's rare a day where there isn't at least one download of Black Marsh. So I can take the order number from January 1st, compare it to the order number of January 1st the following year, and see how many orders that Drive to RPG process. Now, there's probably a lot of internal accounting going on, so there's not actually like a
1-for-1 ratio.
1-for-1 ratio, but obviously if they have a lot of more internal things, that means they have a lot more sales going on. So what happened was, I don't know. Oh, there it is. Drive through numbers. Oh, it's even. Well, we got lucked out here. I really do have Google Foo here, at least on my home computer. But the thing is, so I got it right here. So
dun dun dun.
It's a build-up.
I can share my screen.
It's a slow burn, just like the Germany series. Sorry, I'm just quoting one of our commenters.
We got Stranger Things premiering tonight, I think, guys.
Is it? I
read it's been 3 years since the last season.
Yeah, they're going to be all in college age now and shit. You know, I don't have high hopes.
So I got it up, guys.
All right.
That's what she. No, anyway.
Rob.
That's what she said.
What is that? Though?
There was. Okay, so these are. I went through and found the order number on January. The earliest order of Black March on January 1st. So back in 2000. Yeah. So back in 2001 on January, or 2007 on January 1st. Actually, I didn't have Black March then. I had the Majestic Wonderland, but I did happen to sell one on New Year's Day. Evidently, somebody had some Christmas money, and so that was order number 474,000. Then the next year, I still was selling Majestic Wildland. The first order number I had recorded was 788,000. And then 2009, when I did have Black Mars, it was 1,200,000. And as you can see, it steadily increased. And this column right here is the relative number for the year. And
is that total number of orders of just that product or all
order numbers? Order numbers.
Okay.
So whatever generates an order number at drive-thru gets upticked by one.
Wow, so, Rob, you have entirely too much time on
that's
your
amazing,
hands, dude.
That is amazing.
But hey, I hate to say this, it takes me 20 minutes to compile this. So
well, I got a slight tangent that's going to bring us back to the original topic and get us into what we're talking about here. Is what Eric said, the Kickstarters. If you look at right now, Original Adventures Reincarnated #7, they're kickstarting it because it's a 3-book set for Dark Tower. All right. And Dark Tower, as you know, was a Judges Guild product from back in the day. Janelle Jaques wrote that. It was fantastic. Actually, somebody ran us through it by 6, 7, 8 years ago. It was a fun time back in the Flails in those days. And looking at that, there's 2,756 backers, right? $363,694 raised, and on a $10,000 goal. That's insane. There's some shit that's backing that's amazing right now, you know? That's quality stuff, and people from all over, because they're going to do a 5e version and a DCC version of this thing, right? Different covers, the whole bit, and it's good. It's really good. They have good stuff. I've enjoyed every single one of those DCC Original Adventures Reincarnated books, because they put out the old edition, the originals, multiple printings if there was one. They have some notes and some essays and some people telling stories about back in the day, blah blah blah. Then they put out a 5e version of it. And it's great. I got to that for the Temple of Elemental Evil. You know, it's just good shit. And they don't put out PDFs, so you got to buy the books, I think, which is also what's driving this.
Oh,
you know,
likely. And I will say I am not likely to get this one. I own the original Dark Tower. Mm-hmm. I did get the updated Temple of Elemental Evil, although I own 2 copies of the original, and I realized quite quickly that I'm probably not going to do much reading of the expanded temples, too much of much. Mm-hmm. But I mean, it's great if you don't have it, and if you play 5e or you play DCC, this is great. I believe the original material is still going to be there in the original Judges Guild version, but the new material, which is the Sons of Set, or the Chosen Sons of Set, that's only coming in DCC or 5e flavor.
Yeah. They're adding material. So this is, I think Janelle is involved in this, isn't she? I think in some way.
Probably.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, she was involved with the last project of hers. They brought up, and I believe that listen, as you probably know, Judges Guild has a certain amount of toxicity linked to it. So the way that Goodman Games has kind of found a way to get around the toxicity is to not license. They buy the properties outright from.
Did you hear what they bought just recently, Eric? Did you guys hear that?
Caverns of Thracia.
Yeah, Caverns of Thracia. They bought it, and they're going to release it as their next big Kickstarter thing.
That's one I may actually back.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Hey, I tried to talk to Blob Bedsaw a second and give him my pitch about making the Waterlands open content. So in case, Matt, you probably don't know about this. So I have an idea where Bob Bedsaw sets a price, say like $100,000, okay? Then I would run a Kickstarter and say, we have 100,000 goal. If we meet this goal, then we would use this money to buy the Judges Guild IP and make it open content for everybody to use. That's the reward of the Kickstarter. So
you could get 100,000.
It's pretty cheap, actually. You know,
who knows?
Pretty cheap.
Yeah. I don't know. You think Judges Guild stuff is that? I mean, I know among our crowd, we all know what that is.
Except for the setting material, much of what is left that hasn't been snagged by Goodman Listen, do I want Scrap Faggot Green as open content? I couldn't give a flying fuck.
Yeah. They had a
It's
handful.
the Waterlands. We want the Waterlands
Right.
open content so people can start doing stuff with it.
Yeah.
I mean, that
Especially
would be right now. I think that's the only way of redeeming Judges Guild at this point.
Well,
And by making it open content, if the blood side for some reason had some of Dad's notes hanging around, and they want to publish that, they have the same right as anybody else to use that open content. So it doesn't block them from doing it, but he wouldn't really hear about it.
Dad's notes. It's sort of like Frank Herbert. Well, we found some notes in a safe deposit box, says the son. There's some notes about the future books. Meantime, 78,000 books later in the Dune saga. Motherfucker didn't write that many notes.
If I can get back to the sales. So I just looked at my latest orders. So right now, the best year so far that a drive-through had so far was in 2021. And that's mostly because April, when the pandemic hit, and May, it was just 2 months of twice the normal sale. So it was gangbusters.
And then a lot.
And then in 2021 it fell back, but it's still slightly higher than 2019. And then in 2022, as of May, we are slightly ahead of where drive-through was as far as order numbers go, where they were in May of 2020. So it seems like there's a slight plateau, but there was a slight plateau between 2012 and 2014, and still started picking up again.
Wasn't that because was that the 4E days, or was 5E out by then? I think it might have been 4E.
Just a couple of last year.
You know what? It picked up that's right. After 2015, the 5E picked up.
Because fucking 4E, he was buying anything, right? You're playing Pathfinder, and they were selling their own shit. They weren't doing drive-through. Right. Everybody was playing 3rd edition of Pathfinder.
They still have double the right now. They're going to have double the sales that they did in 2016. Right.
Hey, speaking of Kickstarter, we were talking about before. I got a video coming out probably tomorrow. I did it yesterday, an unboxing of Svealand. It's a Norse setting, and it's a 5E, a lot of books for 5E. It's amazing, actually. I got it. I backed it a year and a half ago, and it finally came in. I opened the box, and I saw they're all shrink wraps. So I'm like, let me back this. Look at this art. Now, this art, as most of you know, if you ever heard me talk about art, I could give two fucks. It doesn't do anything for me. It doesn't influence my buying a book or anything. There's been very few books that the art's like, oh, shit, that's awesome. Some Araji stuff, some of the old Warhammer shit they had, Realms of Chaos and all that. The art in this shit is amazing. I mean, it's something else. It's a brutal 5e Norse setting. So I'm gonna have the video coming out probably tomorrow. It's already done. It's like 30 minutes long. I just got to upload it, and it just finally made it over to my hard drive. So I did it on my cell phone. My brother was over. He says, "Hey, what are we gonna do tonight? I got nothing to do. Blah blah. The kids are all out." I said, "Oh, I'm gonna do an unboxing. Come on over." So you'll get that tomorrow. If you haven't subscribed, youtube.com/JoetheLawyer. So we're getting it going.
You done advertising, Joe?
I'm done.
I'm not done. So, so since we're talking Norse, I want to give a shout out to Douglas Cold and Gaming Ballistic.
Oh, definitely.
If anything that's Dragon Heresy, although he does have his own Dragon Heresy RPG, it's a 5E based RPG, so his stuff is very compatible with 5E. But he also published stuff for GURPS, which was a major coup for him, and he published things for Sanity Trip. But he has a very atmospheric Norse setting that probably would actually fit well with this product as well. So,
well, Doug is someone who you can back on Kickstarter, and it will come out. If it doesn't come out on time, it isn't because he didn't plan for it properly. So.
Let me show you a picture, guys. Eric, I'll give you a quick screen. You can show this. It gives you an idea of some of the art I'm talking
also,
about.
Harn has plenty of Viking stuff.
There's a link there, or the share screen thing.
Hold on. First, that's the Gaming Ballistic link.
Oh, okay. We're linking all over the place.
We're all over the place. We don't have focus. Focus.
We have focus. Depends on how much stuff we got in us to have the focus. There you go. This is just typical of the artwork.
I like that place.
Right.
like that
This
piece.
is a module they put out called Freya's Tears. It's a 5e module. Then it's like levels 1 to 20. Let me get to something more. There you go. All right. See, and they have active maps in here, right? So you could grab this, make a map out of it, the whole bit. The maps themselves aren't that bad, but the creature art is really impressive too. Like, look at this. That's just cool shit. I mean, it's evocative. It gives you a feel. You understand what's going on.
I want players to see that.
Yeah, that's it. I would hold that shit up. That's the kind of stuff. Like, look at that. That's just nice. Look at that thing. Who the hell knows what that is? But it's creepy and shit.
Well, if you're gonna that is very good art, but
yeah.
I will counter with a Richard Luschek piece. He does an outstanding job over it. Let me see if I can get an image here.
There you go. Here's some. I know there was another good one. Yeah, look at that. Good stuff, guys. I mean, I know people are listening on their car or something at some point, but you may not be able to hear it. Look at this. This is awesome. Awesome shit. So that's why I backed it. They kind of sold me on the theme. So yeah, pretty cool.
All right, Rob. Cool. What are you showing me here?
I'm working on it. Just they're fighting me.
You dropped a prior link to Columbia Games.
Yeah. That's the list to Orball, which has all their Viking related stuff. Got an image.
Okay.
Do I got an image? Yeah, here's. Yes, I finally got an image. Oh, and it's not.
Oh, is this the Harn shit that's coming out? The new Harn books?
Yeah, they're already out. They're already out.
I bought a couple. I'm already backed a couple. Yeah, I'm getting them all.
I couldn't find a high res, Eric, but I'm showing it on my screen.
That's okay.
Oh, that's cool.
Cool. Richard Luschek does an outstanding job and very evocative art when it comes to all things medieval, Harn, and Viking. So, highly recommend it. And you know what? And it all kind of, even though they're nominally 3 separate settings: Harn, Douglas Cold Norvald, and what was the one you back, Joe? Ski Vault?
Yes, Sviland, Svilland.
Sviland.
Yeah.
It's just like in real life, you have Denmark, Sweden, and Norway. You can probably mash all this stuff together for an awesome Viking campaign.
So the thing that led us to our actual topic we were going to talk about 41 minutes ago was Matt, of course, bringing in the topic discussion points. I pointed out to our little.
Giving him credit.
I'm giving him credit because you talked about it.
I'm just making sure.
Yeah. He gave it. Because I pasted at the Caverns of Thracia. They picked it up at blah blah blah, and I posted the picture of it. And Greg says, "Hey, Jay Quays is all the rage, blah blah blah." And then Matt says, "Overrated." So Matt, why is the Jay Quays dungeon design overrated? What do you think?
I didn't say it was overrated. I said I think it is just a term that the OSR community has latched on and that they think is some sort of holy grail. And part of my reasoning behind that statement is, I'm going to say this, and one of you is going to be a smartass and go, "Oh yeah, of course," but I bet you're just bullshitting because you're on video. Have you ever been in a dungeon where you sat back and you leaned over and you went, "Bro, this dungeon would be so much better if it wasn't fucking linear"? I bet no one has ever fucking said that. And,
wait.
Much. Sorry.
I have said that about a Frank Metzler drawn dungeon.
When you were playing in the game, or when you were sitting back reading it as the dungeon master?
Oh no, sorry. As the dungeon master, I refused to run it because it was a piece of.
That's different though. But what I'm saying is everybody always says you have to jockey the dungeon because it makes it so much organic and alive. And I bet no player has ever noticed the difference. I bet no player's ever gone, "Guys, did you realize there was a second entrance to this dungeon? Whoa, this dungeon just went from a 5 to a 9 for me." Bullshit.
And I do remember that dungeon you ran us through, right? The one of the many that we started and never finished. You're running out of board of the campaign, right? You had a dungeon with, was it a goblins or what the hell were they that we were fighting in multiple levels? Do you remember the thing? It was like 7 levels or some shit like that, you said. and we had to go in. It was an old burnt. It was the thing that burnt down, and there was a fire going on. We had to escape the fucking fire. Remember that one?
Was that the one with spiders?
I might have been, but I remember that dungeon that was pretty cool because it did have multiple ways in, and I liked that about it because you could pick and choose how you want to approach the place. And I do remember that was a nice dungeon. But I just posted the link there, Eric, if you want to share it. The Jaquaying the Dungeon comes from a blog post July 23rd, 2010 from the Alexandrian, which is a very popular old school blog back in the day. Very deep thoughts, very interesting.
But let me answer Matt's question here. So the answer, have I ever noticed that the dungeon was linear? Yeah, back when the 4E was a new hotness and I was attending convention and game stores a little bit more than I am now. I go in there, by the third time I play, I knew the pattern. So a little bit of role play, you go and you fucking had an encounter or two, and it's 1, 2, 3, role play. And then your next 2 hours was playing 1, 2, 3 encounter, and then the denouncement. And it was just so fucking cookie cutter. Session after session after session.
That was the 4E. The 4E style was the 7-room, 5-room dungeon piece of shit with all combat. It was all combat. It wasn't designed for exploration. It was designed for combat encounters. That's all 4E was about, designing a combat encounter area. It had nothing to do with dungeon exploration, really, even from what I saw about it.
There were dungeons. They had all the dungeon trapping. There were normally a maze, but there was just like a corridor with side rooms. They very obviously led one thing to another, so all things happened in order.
Yeah.
In order to. So
isn't there a theory or a method of designing adventures where there should never be an actual, if you can't do A, you'll never get to B. There's always got to be a secondary path so your players are never stumped because, we had nobody to pick a lock. Well, if your party was dumb enough to come out with a thief, then you're not going to pick a lock. Maybe you're going to break the door down. But I don't remember. Was it? Oh God! It was one of these horrible podcasts. I'm not saying that we're a good podcast. It was one of the ones that were very shiny and professionally done and scripted. And the idea is there's always at least one alternative method to get anywhere that needs to be achieved, so your party never gets stuck. Sometimes your party gets stuck. Sometimes
So can we examine the evidence here, Eric? And I have one of your case. I have the because of my work on the Goodman Games, I have scans galore of JK's dungeon.
Can we, before you do that, Rob? I think nobody knows what the fuck we're talking about unless they're around in 2010 and read this goddamn article, right? So there's a brief summary. Jaquaying the Dungeon. I'll give some of the points or principles. All right. Just real quick. I won't even go into them. All right. So scrolling down here to part 2 of this article, some of the aspects of a Jaquay's dungeon: multiple entrances, loops, which are branching paths that allow for a choice, multiple level connections, discontinuous level connections, secret and unusual paths, sub-levels that you can't access from all the places, divided levels, nested dungeons, minor elevation shifts, midpoint entry, non-Euclidean geometry, extra dimensional spaces. All right, so those are all some of the aspects of what we're talking about there. Basically, I would add to that, and now as a new school design, some level, if you want to integrate the Jaquaying the dungeon along with, I hate the word, but it's fucking the word everybody uses, verisimilitude. When I just call it, where do the orcs take a shit? Right, you have to have that kind of level of realism in there too, right? So if you put the Jaquays plus that's what we're talking about, as opposed to, I think we all remember the AD&D DM guide where it says, "Here's how to design a random dungeon. Roll this and put this there if you get this, and put this there if you get that roll." I mean, that kind of bullshit, which I think is the worst way to ever design a fucking dungeon. It has to make sense,
So I got interrupted there. Let me back.
I knew you were gonna, because we were just talking about that.
Yeah, my dog started barking. I had to mute so you guys didn't become deaf. The dungeon I think you're thinking of, Joe.
Yeah.
We went in it once, and then you guys left, and then you came back like 3 weeks later or something.
Yeah.
I actually changed the entire dungeon in between that, but it's actually I think you'd be a little surprised if I pulled up the map.
Okay.
It's very simple and straightforward. There are no multiple loop backs.
So what am I thinking of then? It must
I
have
don't
been.
know, but
I thought there's multiple entrances because we had a couple different ways to get in. That's what I seem to remember. I must be thinking of a different one. I'm half drunk every time I play.
A different map.
Well, and then to kind of go on what you're saying, I think it's interesting that everybody's like, oh, this is what these old ways is how we should be mapping. This is great stuff. Somebody go find an old D&D map that has one of those 400-foot long hallways that never turns. Did anybody play that and enjoy that? Did you enjoy going down the 400-foot long hallway? No. Yeah, I think a lot of the old designs are maybe there were multiple entrances, maybe there were multiple paths, but at the same time, I think that style of dungeon design was terrible as well.
I agree, but that's why Jaquay in the dungeon. That's why Jaquay's maps back then were so radically revolutionary, because this is 1979. We're all doing stupid fucking maps that make no sense, and all of a sudden Jaquay comes in and says, "This shit makes sense."
Yeah,
here's why.
I agree, they're better. I just think it's one of these little phrases that we as a community have all decided that this is the true and best way of doing it. And it is a better way. I agree with James. It's because it's French and it sounds so debonair. Because it's so French.
But it's like anything in the OSI. I mean, how universal is the sentiment? I mean, the Alexandrian wrote an excellent.
Said it isn't. Everybody I've ever met has been like, "Oh, this is the correct way to do it."
Well, I think it's. I think actually, what most of, at least the people I'm familiar with, go riff off more of is who he cites here, which is Mellon, the guy who wrote Castle Exalian, who writes at the for Hamalite for I know I'm mispronouncing it, the Formalite blog. He's the one who pointed out and made those diagrams his article is referencing. Although the Alexandrian came up with Jaquay in the dungeon.
Yeah. And don't forget, Matt, what we were all doing back then was, we're all on the blogs and talking about shit and we're all a bunch of old people who were just like, fuck this 4th edition shit. And Guy Gox died and I'm sentimental and I want to go play the old games and we want to understand what made them really good and what made them really bad. And we were all kids when we played these old games. And so we're looking at this shit with adult eyes and we're saying, what do we want to play? We all played the stupid shit again. And I'm like, that was kind of dumb. How do we make it better? And we're picking apart things back then, right? We're all blogging about stuff. We're picking apart. We're discussing. We're trying to understand what makes something good, what makes something bad. We all know the Forest Oracle was the world's worst module ever created, and it's not even worth wiping your ass with, right? For example, one small example. But we were grabbing onto shit like, we don't want to make an old school dungeon just random that makes no fucking sense. But what back then did make better sense, and I think that's. And
then there was blog site like 10-Foot Pole, which is still going.
Yeah. And
he reviews all these adventures, these obscure things that probably only had 10 sales, and he 3/4 of them he rips them apart, and a lot of them, Matt, are linear, just a line of rooms,
Yeah.
So, Bad Mike has some comments on this.
It does, some good ones.
Yeah. So, Jaquay was a pioneer in dungeon design, and doesn't mean that it stands up perfectly over time, but for the time, it was different than just filling in your sheet of graph paper, using every box, which is what a lot of these initial dungeons were. And the best part, Jaquay was 18 to 20 at the time.
Yeah.
And the website Joe was referring to was by Gavrilux. I think Joe was referring to it. That was Gavrilux was the author. You still
10-Foot Pole one or 10?
No, the 4 million. Maybe it wasn't you mentioning it. Maybe it was.
No, I don't know. I don't recognize
that. Rob's got the idea of old time goodiness. And by the way, Tenkar is here, Mike. Okay, and go screw yourself.
Form halt.
I do agree with Bad Mike about the 10-Foot Pole.
Yeah,
I think that's another thing people kind of have grabbed onto, well, the 10-foot pole says it's good. Well, then, golly, it must be good. I mean, whatever. Let's all join the Ben Milton fan club too while we're at it. New OSR.
I actually met the guy who does that.
What, Ben Milton?
Ben Milton?
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Isn't that guy brand new to everything D&D entirely, and now he's some sort of an old school guy?
Well, he's new OSR. He's
is that what it is? What's new OSR, man? Give me the definition. This is good. This is gonna be good. I can tell.
Art house.
I can tell Matt's in a mood. Give me what is new OSR? Come on, let's hear it. How many ciders you got in tonight?
I'm sure somebody's gonna come on here and tell me I'm an idiot, and maybe I am, but it's they utilize a lot of the, I don't want to say theories, but kind of the things that we use to help define what the OSR is to us, like style of play. Yeah. And then they throw a bunch of cool art and art house, morkboard style, weird colors and shit. And it's like, this is awesome. This is old school. No, it's new OSR.
Right.
That's
art house. I like to call it art house.
Temper pole stick. No, temper pole like stuff like my Scourge of the Demon Wolf.
No. I'm talking about the Questing Beast guy.
Oh, okay.
Which I'm sure I agree with a lot of what he says. Don't get me wrong. I just think it's another one of those, everybody has jumped on a bandwagon, and that's the cool thing. That's really what I'm saying about this whole Jacques King of the dungeon. I agree. It is a better style of map than those old style where every single grid space has to be filled in with no depth or difference between the locations. That was terrible. I agree. I'm not saying that was better than her style. I'm just saying that, oh, damn it. The dog might be going crazy again. I'm just saying that I don't think that it's like the holy grail of mapping or something. Like it feels like people are like, well, I need to make sure that there are multiple entrances in.
All right, can we?
Well, before the time. Now, James Seymour wants to know, was Jack Quaid the first or just the most published? You have to realize there wasn't much being published as far as adventures went back then. TSR really wasn't. It was coming from Judges Guild. It was coming from a few other small licensees. Yep. And, Jack Quaid was probably the first one that thought out of the established box.
Yeah.
And that was big. As Mike said, no one did it before him, but remember, these were the early days of the hobby.
That's it.
Well, you know, Bob Bledsaw Sr. did a pretty damn good job with Tico Manor. Okay, but here's the thing. Tico Manor, the product, is pretty bare bones. I mean, you got one-line descriptions for almost all, 3/4 of the room. But with Jacquet, you get, this bad boy, and he actually explains things, and he doesn't go overboard, mostly. And, and he has these, well, Eric, can you post it? Post the map side, post my screen.
Hold on.
So, here is the basic layout of his dungeon. You have the village on top. You have 4 traditional dungeon levels, and you have these 2 towers, and they have different interconnections. And here's the first level. So here you have an entrance to the Tower of Mitra. You have an entrance to the dungeon. I know there's secret door engines. I just don't remember where it is. But you can see it's not it's not laid out into grids. You got a little sort of like a cavern network up in here. You got this curving hallway here. You got this overpass right here. This corridor is over this corridor right here. And you have the tip of the Tower of Set. And then if you go to, this is the second level, it's a little bit more sparse. And if you go deeper until you get down here, which is pretty much like its own complex. And then you have the towers themselves, which are, I admit, they're not that particularly complex as you can see in these images.
Yeah.
But
still,
they have, and here's the extra dimensional space here that you get.
I remember that fight. That was a doozy of a fight we had.
So level K, this square here will take you to an extra dimensional space where you fight the Sons of Set. You know, I think this bad. I don't
Go
have
back,
to.
Matt. Go back, Rob. Go back a couple. Boom, boom, one more. Boom, boom. The big one. There it is. That's a cool map. That's pretty decent, man. You know, it really is different
Little,
stuff.
yellow, different.
Yep.
Yeah. So I mean, she did it first in an era where nobody was doing anything like this. She did it, and wasn't the most popular. No, because it was on fucking Judges Guild newspaper print style paper. Nobody was buying that shit, right? But
So somebody's biting at the bit right now.
Huh?
Somebody's biting at the bit right now.
Who? Where? What? When?
We're gonna have
Vinny Barbarino.
no.
What do we got?
Okay,
there's trouble.
I'm sorry.
That's
Okay,
all right.
Rob, because dude, I am the bit. I'm a Jackways.
Jackways fanboy.
Oh, we lost him. You there, man?
I'm here. Hold on.
There you go. Okay.
Can you hear me? Okay.
Yep.
We can hear you.
No,
We can hear you.
Can you hear me? Okay.
Yes.
I'm a
You're
huge
good.
Jackways fanboy, gigantic. But Rob covered a lot of it. Rob was absolutely right because. But I'll tell you something that Jackways did, and I'm going to use Jackways because I don't want to dead name Janelle, but I keep wanting to say dead name.
Yeah,
But
know.
we'll just say
Yeah,
Jackways. So.
Yep.
Up until then, dungeons were you went in, there was a bunch of bad guys, you killed them all, and that's what it was. Jaquays had factions, which is something up until then dungeons never had. I mean, think about the G series, S series, I mean, whatever series you want to think. They did not have factions. Jaquays had these intricate plot lines. Look at Caverns of Thracia. Caverns of Thracia is just not a simple exploration. It's also finding the origin. I mean, if you delve well enough, you'll find the origins of the Caverns of Thracia and why the different kind of creatures in there and why they have these different relationships. Same with Dark Tower. And that's one, and like I said, it drives me crazy that Jaquays is able to do this at age like 18, 19, and 20. Because 18, 19, 20, my dungeons look like garbage. I mean, I had, they were all one large flat, everything was flat, and it came out, and I did the worst, I mean, just the worst stuff ever. I had a dungeon once that was a museum that had robots in it. I mean, I was all over the place, right? But no, that's besides the fact that they had the dungeons that just went, various levels, various ways, ins and out. You could go from one level to the other without knowing it. She's just well known for basically putting a really good plot line in dungeons with different factions. And nobody did that. That wasn't even something you thought of back then. I mean, look at the Wii Warriors stuff. I mean, just all that early stuff that was in the late 70s. So now the thing is, it's not like anybody wouldn't have eventually done this. That's why I called her a pioneer, because, a pioneer discovers, the continent of North America. Well, that doesn't mean somebody would eventually discover the continent of North America. I mean, it's just but the pioneer is the first that did it. That's just Jaquays just basically did it before anybody else. Because I'm sure people would have eventually added factions to dungeons, and they would have done esoteric, different level dungeon stuff. But she did it first, so she deserves the fact just for being the first person to really put that in there. When other dungeons, I mean, look at the other dungeons written in the late 70s, and that stuff just stands head and shoulders above it. I mean, Dark Tower and Caverns of Thracia, it's head and shoulders above anything published. Even the stuff Gary published, except maybe I would throw now. I mean, I like the Giant series a lot, but if you read the Giant series, they're only like 8 pages long. I mean, they're really
they're real small. Yeah,
they're very small. I think, and Eric and I talked about this the other night. The D series was the first underground hex crawl, and that's what it is. It's an underground hex crawl.
Yeah.
And
with factions.
And then you get to Vault of the Drone. What do you have? You have all these factions.
Mm-hmm.
So Jaquays did it before Gary, but Gary did it well too. Like I said, I think Vault of the Drone is a really overlooked module in terms of how cool it is and how much you can do with that if you really have a good group and a good DM.
Agreed.
But yeah, Jaquays just did it first. That's my big takeaway. And there's another Jaquays dungeon, if you ever read, it's called Night of the Walking Wet. And I was actually honored to be able to rewrite that, because if you ever read the original Night of the Walking Wet, either in the original Dungeoneer or in the Dungeoneer Compendium, it's awful. It's got tiny little type, and there's one section that says put this here, and there's an arrow, there's like a arrow drawn on the paper with like, oh, I messed up the sections. So Zach Glazer and I redid it all. We put it in 12-point type, and we cleaned up a few mistakes in it. But that also, if you read that, it also has factions, and it has different entrances and exits to the dungeon, and it has a really, really interesting plot line, because the bad guy is actually, it's a sci-fi villain. It's actually, the slime god's actually a visitor from another planet that crash landed on this planet years ago, and the high priest found its spaceship, and that's what the dungeon ends up being. The dungeon's a spaceship. So Jaquace was just, she was just lapping everybody at the time. I mean, whatever idea you had, Janelle's was better. Janelle's is going to be better. And then here's what's interesting. Where did Janelle go after gaming? Went to computers.
Doom. She designed Doom levels, which are some of the most fun shit I've ever. I've been thinking about this for a while. Doom levels are easily importable into fucking D&D maps, right? I mean, they're great. They're great maps. They make sense for what they are, right? And they're fun. Multiple heights and everything else.
What do computer games require? They require 3D thinking. They require not thinking. You're not thinking one level, and that's why she did so much good work with Coleco and with the other companies that work with ID, because that's the kind of thinking you need to do these 3D levels. And while it's a pity that she didn't stay with D&D very long, she's only writing stuff for a few years now. She did some stuff for TSR here and there. She did the Savage Frontier. There was a couple of things that she did here and there, but mostly, just the computer stuff. And she obviously did some artwork like the Dragon Mountain pictures, some really good stuff like that. Yeah. But yeah, that was kind of where she was heading without knowing it. She was really, really kind of getting ready for that computer job someday.
Says she designed Quake 2 levels.
Quake 2 as well. Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Quake.
Affordable, I think.
She and Sandy Peterson were buddies, and they actually. The funny thing is, Janelle and Sandy Peterson actually lived very close together in Texas at the time, which I did not know. When I was a little '90s fanboy, I had no idea that those two lived about 5 miles away from each other. Over in East Dallas. Because I would have been bang, 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 Sandy Peterson, Jaquace. But I didn't know clue until we were going to do the convention. And then we were looking for people in the area. And Doug was like, oh, Jaquace lives like, 30 miles away. I was like, what? Oh, and yeah, Sandy Peterson lives over there. I was like, what? Oh, and Steve Marsh lives like 10 miles north of them. I was like, you're kidding me, in Texas. But so, yeah, I blew my chance in the 90s to fanboy all over those people by showing up unannounced at their house. But yeah, Steve Marsh lived with it too. But they all worked in the computer industry. There was a big division that who did Quake? Was Quake ID? I can't remember. They had a big division. Still. Yeah. Dallas was their headquarters, and so they had a big computer division in Dallas, and a lot of the computer people ended up moving to Dallas or moving to Texas. Just Dennis Astaire was another one, but he was in Austin. There was also another really big computer industry in Austin at the time, Pflugerville. And so Jeff Dees from Pflugerville, Dennis Astaire was there. There's a bunch of those old TSR guys ended up there too. So, but anyway, that's just all I wanted to add. Rob had it down pretty good, but I think one of the biggest things she added was the plot of Dark Tower is better than anything you'll read in anything coming out of TSR at the time or Judges Guild. I mean, it's
10 years. For 10 years, there was nothing that touched it for 10 years. Really,
no, because look at all those dungeons that came out. It was here's your MacGuffin, go in and get it and stop or whatever, or here's your bad guy, go in and stop him. There just wasn't, like I said, Vault Ledreau I think is very underrated, but other than that, there wasn't anything like that where you have to go on this quest. And I mean, I even think stuff like people try to do things like that. I think Tracy and Laura Hickman tried to do that with the I series, Desert Desolation. I think they tried to do that. I don't think it's a very good adventure. I don't think so.
Rob ran us through it. It was okay, but I don't know what Rob in terms of mods made to the thing, but it was fun. It was interesting.
What are
the eye ones? The pyramid one, Rob, you ran us through.
Oh yeah, we did go through the last one.
It was a fun game.
Desert Desolation. Yeah.
James Seymour, Matt, here's another one for you. You were just talking West Marches with us again the other day. So is West Marches campaign style as important as Jaquaying a dungeon? I throw that to you, Matt. You were just talking
I'm
about
not an expert in West Marches.
Weren't you thinking about running a game in that shit though? You were just talking about
Yep.
it.
But I don't have enough friends to run a West March game, so
we were. The only thing I have no experience in running it. All I know is that I tried to get it one going. I wrote like 30 pages of, me. I wrote 30 pages of shit to get it going. Then I realized nobody would ever play this, and I don't even really kind of like it. Once I realized what it was, because from what I see, it's this again is just going by videos that I've seen people do. You schlep out from a town, you find hirelings or torch bearers and blah blah blah. You schlep out from a town, you march X amount of hexes, you do the thing, and then you're instantly teleported back to the town. I guess as a whatever before the game is over, so that anybody could go and pick up a group of players and say, "Hey, I'm gonna go and explore the Cave of Doom." Anybody want to go? And 6 people show up, and you hire your hirelings, and you go out to the Cave of Doom, and it's player driven, right? That's the gist of what I understand. And I've seen Hobbs do it. I watched his to try to get the gist of it, but the thing about Hobbs' game, he spends an hour just getting hirelings. I'm like, motherfucker, I'm not gonna, love him to death, but Jesus Christ, dude, speed up the hirelings.
I always thought West Marches always sounded like a better idea than it was because, as Matt said, I mean, it's tough to get that many people together to play. You can't really do a proper West Marches campaign unless you have maybe a dozen people. I mean, seriously, you really need a big pool of people. That you can draw from. And a couple of things I never liked about West Marches was that you're never supposed to spend a night in the wilderness. You have to make it back to the city because you have to be able to start over again the next time if the same players aren't there.
With your character,
But you were also never supposed to have city adventures because the whole one of the tenets of West Marches was, who cares about the city? The city is the city. You're going to the wilderness and you're going to explore the wilderness. And I kind of like city adventures sometimes, but that was like, no city adventures ever. No, you don't need to describe the city at all. The city is just there. They get their supplies, they fill up, and they leave. And those are those are probably the only 2 things I didn't like about the West Marches. But I think a lot of us unconsciously played that, right? I mean, that's how we played. Is whoever showed up that week, right? Whoever showed up.
I guess I didn't have enough people. I mean, it was me and my brother because wrote my sister in and the kid next door. It wasn't rich in players, so we were kind of stuck with it. It was a different thing with me.
Yeah, with me, it was always if we didn't have the quorum, if we didn't have the full group, we pulled out Chaos Marauders, Risk,
Mech Warrior,
Warhammer, Talisman. You didn't. God forbid you were short one player and you actually played an RPG. Listen, I had a girlfriend at the time, and it was always like, I know I'm off like Sunday and Wednesday, but whatever we do Sunday, I got to be home by 3 because I got to run the D&D session. It's gonna last until 10. It's like, there's priorities.
Yeah, there wasn't teleportation. It basically, it's like it ends that you're back in the city. That's my understanding of it.
I think this is another thing where people have defined it, and I don't know that that's really how. I mean, I actually started a game last night, and one of the things I stole from, I think it's a blog. I think it's called Orbital Crypt, I think is what it's called. But one of the things he added in was a rule. I think it was his blog. Anyway, where he actually added in rules for camping. So instead of having to run back to town, because yes, that is one thing that you're right. One of the tenets is there is no adventuring in town. And that pushes the focus on the wilderness and exploring the wilderness. And one thing I don't like is the whole, and you're right about some of Hobbs' videos that I've watched. They do a lot of prepping and setting up so much that you have a 3-hour session and you spend 45 minutes to an hour planning, and then a 45-minute session at the end where you're selling stuff, buying, re-equipping so that you go out the next time, and it ends up you adventure for about an hour. And I was like, wow, that's a bit extreme for me. So I do understand that, but I like the rules, and actually I'll probably post them on my blog because I found some rules about how to use, and this is going to be hearsay for old school people, but movement points instead of you can go three hexes or 6 hexes every hour or whatever, or 6 miles or whatever. But the way they use movement points and what they do is they you fortify your encampment. So you spend supplies to fortify your encampment, and that allows you to basically have less of a chance of having a random encounter during the night or something like that.
All right, that makes sense.
Right. No, I played around with it last night. I had 2 guys play. They seem to enjoy it. And I won't say I'm running a West Marches because, like I said, I don't have that many friends. I think I piss off too many people because I say I don't like Janelle. But anyway. But yeah. No,
Who doesn't like Janelle?
No, just fucking around.
Janelle's a sweetheart.
I think you're right. I think you really need to really do it justice. You need about 20 people.
Yeah.
And you need to be able to have multiple DMs. But the entire focus of it is your hex. It's a hex crawl. That's really what it is.
But it's a limited hex crawl, Matt, because if you're only limited to what you can march in one day, you're never going to explore more than 15, 20 miles outside.
What are you talking about, city? Joe? You're the king of high power adventure. Get some flight, teleportation, magic flying carpets, and now you can go 20 hexes in a day.
I just find the whole West March conceit a bunch of look. I understand. I appreciate that people make it work and it's for them, but all these West March rules I just view as a bunch of metagaming bullshit. I mean, if you stick it,
tell us how you really feel.
Wow.
If you want to camp in the wilderness, you can camp in the fucking wilderness. I don't care. I'm not going to get bent out of shape if you're camping out of the wilderness. If that player is out in that encampment, is not there next week, I'll figure out a way to make it work. You went around
I had a big argument. I had a big argument with Chicago. Remember Chicago Wizard? What's the guy's name? I can't. Yeah. So he ran a West Marches campaign, and it looked like it was a ton of fun. I mean, he would write about it on his blog back in the day. And this is the old days back when. I mean, Rob and Tenkar were there back in those days. This is the old days and the blog stuff. But anyway, he ran a West Marches campaign, and it looked like it was just tons of fun. But we got into an argument because I disagreed with the 2 points that Rob said. I said, well, if a group wants to end up in the wilderness, what do? Well, if they don't make it back to town, they just die. I'm like, what the fuck? Just say they.
That's hardcore gaming there.
So, damn, because in other words, they have to plan their journey to wherever they're going to go, but they've got to make sure they have enough time to get back. He said, oh, no, they've got to get back too. I'm like, that's bookkeeping. That's too much bookkeeping for me. I don't care that's. And then the other one was the city adventure. I said, you don't have any city adventures at all. He goes, no, West Marches has no city adventures. I'm like, but what if they want to haggle with the storekeeper? Like, nope, they don't do anything. No city adventures. Like,
see,
there, and you might as well be playing Rogue or Moria on the computer.
Well, that was one thing where you guys were talking in our little chat group we have. You guys were like, oh, there's no NPCs. I call bullshit. There are NPCs. There are NPCs out in the wilderness. What if you run into the orc commander? He's an NPC. He doesn't just have to be something you kill. It's just you don't focus on the town. And you want to haggle with the guy? Go watch Hobbs West March. They haggle all fucking day in town.
Well, they haggle to hire the hireling. Do I want to pay you 2 silver or 2 silver and 3 copper? Fuck you.
The idea is that the adventure just isn't in town. Now, could there be little side stuff? Sure, I'm sure there can. But like I said, I think this is one of those things where the OSR group has gotten together. Our OSR mob has said, this must be a West March, which whatever. I mean, you want to camp out in the wilderness? Camp out in the fucking wilderness. Just have a couple of owlbears come over and rape your guys in the middle of the night. They won't camp anymore.
And we wonder why we get demonetized, Derek. Every fucking show. We wonder why we get demonetized.
I don't know where you were.
It's a fantasy game.
OSR map, but I have yet to see an OSR mod. Now, I heard more than one person espouse West March.
There's an OSR mob. There used to be quite a bunch of them that ran around and followed a guy that they eventually crucified.
Oh,
Jesus!
You mean which one? Raggy or Zach? I don't know. Which one?
Oh, speaking of Raggy, did you guys see his video today?
Wait, another naked video?
He did another naked video today. I got 5 minutes in, and he was like, "I can't.
I saw the last. I saw part of the last one with the book in front of his crotch.
Yeah,
and nothing else. And you know what? I like James. I don't have any kind of man crush on him like somebody might have on me. So I can certainly say I don't need to see a naked James. So yeah, no, I'll pass on it. I will certainly pass. By the way, Joe Block, Greyhawk Grognard, has a quote that I do remember. You cannot have a meaningful campaign if strict time records are not kept. I think all those old school gamers from the day, remember that? I did not. I used to keep really strict records. Yeah. And my players needed to know their Godstone spell components, and we counted segments and spell interruption.
Oh, God.
Tried weapon speed, and I tapped down on that shit early on. So, God
that's
help.
terrible. I think the one thing, just to real touch base again, back to the West Marches, the one thing we're focusing on is the dumb, stupid shit about having to get back and blah, blah, blah. But I think we're missing the one point that people like it for, is that the West Marches campaign is all about, you have a pool of 20 people or 15 people, however many people who are involved in this. And let's say we got a rumor in town that there's like 5 different places we want to explore. And let's say me, Joe, the player, says, hey, I want to take my halfling thief and go explore the Cave of Doom. Who wants to come on Saturday night to do this? And I reach out to these 10 or 20 players, and 5 or 6 say, I'm free for Saturday. I'll do it with Bluto, Popeye, and Alfalfa. So Bluto, Popeye, and Alfalfa all join me, and then that's how the DM knows what we're going to do. Right. Yep. So it's player directed. And that's the reason why you're instantly teleported back to town or whatever, you know, that you make it back alive without any encounters after every fucking session, because that way you're available to be available in that pool of 10 to 20 people who can join Joe the Halfling going out there to do something. That's the beauty of West Marches. That's a good thing. And that's how Gygax ran a lot of his dungeons back then.
For all of us older guys, well, maybe not some of us that are now older that don't have kids at home, but you know, I've got a bunch of friends that are in their 30s, and they all have multiple children who are very active, and those guys can never get together to game. It's literally tooth and nail to get them one time a month. And I think that's the whole idea behind the West Marches. So, yeah. And I think the other aspect you're missing is it's about exploring. Yes, it is about going and doing these things and exploring this dungeon, but it's really about, it's a hex crawl. It's just a hex crawl. And I agree. Some of the, you know, no camping, nothing at all in town. It's all just selling and prepping and going. I mean, does anybody play with the rules hardcore like that? I don't. No. I mean, I barely have rules when I play.
What's your note there?
What is that, Rob? I can't see it.
Warning. He wants to bring up LARPing.
No. Tim will shut you down.
But actually, it's not just a LARP, Breton. So anytime you have a situation involving multiple players trying to play a campaign at once, whether it's LARP or organized play or an MMORPG, you always have to compromise. Okay? There's always these compromises in order to make the thing happen in the first place. So you're right. You know, the West March, you have a group of guys who are pretty much have a buttload of real life schedules that they got to keep. It's hard to get them together. That's a good format for them? I mean, even if you don't adhere it to 100% strictness, but that allows them to drop in and out without feeling like they missed something like you do. Thank you, Joe. And to do it, but you're compromising, I wouldn't say the integrity of the game because it's too judgmental, but you're incorporating the flow of the game in that if you want to have an adventure, if dealing with a certain NPC in a certain way and stuff you find in whether it's wilderness or in town leads you to have a town adventure, well, have a town adventure. But if you're going to say just blanket no for a metagame reason, then players are not going to make that choice. They're going to avoid that kind of thing because they know they can't have a town adventure, or they know they can't camp in wilderness, or they know they only have 4 hours to play. Or in the case of LARP, I got 20 people on staff, and I can't just move them from one end of the camp in 5 minutes. Give me a break, guys. I need a half hour to set up over there. So we got to work our event around that. So, this, and with the MMORPG, we got a server, we can't have people playing these NPCs. We have to have these dumbass computer algorithms making, repeated choices in order to make the server happen in the first place. So to me, the pure experience is a smallish group between 3 to 5 players, a single referee. You can do anything you want as your characters, which is reasonable. You can even split the party for a short amount of, relatively short amount of time without blowing up the GM's mind.
Yeah.
But the moment you start bringing in multiple players, a dozen, 20,
Right.
then you're going to have to start compromising that experience, which is maybe okay, but just realize what you're doing before going into it.
Well, David Betsack said something that reminded me of something. So he said you can get around what you're saying, Joe, with multiple PCs. I ran a campaign I ran an Undermountain campaign from like 92 to about 95, and that's exactly what it was. So every adventure started at the Yawning Portal. Okay, everybody show up. Which characters do you have available? Because sometimes the characters will be on an expedition. They'd be down already way down the level.
Level 13.
And so they couldn't they couldn't come on this level. So whatever characters you have available, whoever showed up that night, because I had probably a rotating group of about 16 players. Some would only show up maybe once every few months, some showed up every week. But where you just brought your character and you wanted to do, well, if the adventure ended that night and you were down, like you said, level 16, you're just down at level 16. So next time those players are together and you want to work those characters, we'll get back to what's going on with them. But for right now, it's whoever's available gets to adventure. Now, what we did was that if you've ever read the original Undermountain, there's a level 3. I think there's a giant beholder slaving camp there. And you can't, it's just super high level. It's got like 8 beholders in there. It's really nasty. Well, that was kind of the if we ever got to get, at a certain point, everybody had characters about 7, 8, 9th level. And we waited for a day we could get about 10 players together, and they all hit the slaver camp because, okay, this is the only way we're going to be able to take this, because you're not going to be able to take that with 3 or 4 players.
It's like a raid at EverQuest, basically. That's what you're talking about here.
That's exactly what you said. Yes, this is way before EverQuest, but that's exactly what it was. It was a raid, and they all planned it out. They said, okay, we all got to be there that Saturday. Actually, I think we gamed on Monday night. It was weird, but we all got to be there, and we're all going to bring in our best characters, and so it was great. It was like a 5-hour-long tactical combat with beholders and slavers and
now,
stuff.
Did I hear you right, Mike? You said that the way you fixed that problem is that players had multiple characters, so if they were stuck down on level 16, they can just play a different character that night.
Right, exactly. Because, like for instance, I'll give my youngest brother had 3 characters. He had like a dwarven fighter, a goblin thief, and a magic user. And so he would also choose based on the party. So he could work anybody. He'd show up like, okay, what do you guys need? Well, we need a magic user. Okay, I'm pulling my magic user in. Oh, wait a second, I forgot. My magic user's down on level 4, building a temple to somebody, whatever. Oh, I can't bring in the magic user, so that guy's not available. And so what happened was you have very slow advancement, because sometimes players be going between different characters. It actually slowed advancement down quite a bit because you didn't have one character going on every mission, but it made it was very enjoyable because it was kind of like Mission Impossible, right? You all get in the room. Okay, we're in the Yawning Portal. Okay, what do we need? We need a thief. We need 2 magic. So everybody would go among their characters. Like, okay, we'll pull them out. And Undermountain's pretty. It's deadly in spots. Sometimes you get stuck down there and you can't get up and you just die. You die on level 3 or 4. Well, that way if they have multiple characters, Ed the fighter, the dwarven fighter, died down at level 3. Well, do you want us to go get him or not? I don't care about him that much. Just leave him down there, and we'll
see it a +5 Holy Adventure. Then you go down there and get
exactly. Then the adventure.
Well, I think that's a good solution. The only issue I could see with that solution, it's like if you run a stable of character, it's hard for the player to separate. If they discover something on level 16 with character A, well, they're kind of going to know it for character B and C as well. There's only so far you can do to fake lack of knowledge.
Well, we had a mechanism. It was basically the gossip rule. It was that, okay, so let's say one group goes down, they find this giant cache of gems. We can't bring it all up. It's gems and gold. Well, we got to get it up because one of us is going to say something to another player, and they're going to come and get our gold. So what do? Okay, we're going to swear an oath. Nobody here tells anybody else about the gold, right? Right. Okay, so then they go home, and then the next week, somebody else shows up like, hey, I want to go check out that cache of treasure. Like, how'd you find out? Oh, because Ed was somewhere. So we just said, look, there's a gossip rule. Nobody ever keeps shut about something. So somebody's going to find out. It doesn't matter how much you batten it down. So in other words, if you want to do something, you better do it real quick and don't let it sit there because somebody's going to find out. Now, there's some long-lived secrets in that campaign that never came out because there actually were some players that swore, okay, we are not going to tell anybody about the secret room we found that you can rest in, and it's got this magic fountain that cures you. And those secrets are kept the whole campaign. That nobody ever found out about them. But most of the time,
more than one person knew about it.
And they actually kept the secret. But then most of the time somebody would just blab. They would all get together and go, man, you would believe we found next week. We found a room full of gems and gold. And it's like, shut the fuck up. Like,
I
really?
know my experience with LARP, and I'm bringing it up again, but my experience with LARP,
29.
the moment you tell another player what you did, you might as well tell the whole camp because it's going to come out. If it maybe not within the month, but by the end of the season, they'll probably nobody can. If you want to keep a secret, be the only one to know the secret.
That's when you spread the disinformation, though. Yeah. That's cool.
Well, that's actually one of the aspects of Westmarch that we didn't touch on, and goes back to that whole keeping time records.
Yeah.
Is the game is considered to be consistently alive. So Monday night, Joe goes out with his crew and what was it? The Caverns of Doom.
Yeah.
And raids Caverns of Doom. And maybe they have to, I don't know, tactically retreat, and they leave a magic user there who died with like shit tons of scrolls. Well, they get back to town, and the players all talk like you guys are talking about, and then Group B is like, hey man, Jim Bob the Mage, who was 17th level and had ass loads of magic, died on level 2 of the Caverns of Doom. Let's go try to recover him. Or they get secrets, and it's what I've read about some of the stuff is it's a little bit of a competition. You don't want, and not only that, like some people will go and touching a little bit on, like you were saying, this is a great pickup game. Well, what's to keep the same group from every Saturday getting together and going back to that same dungeon and exploring it deeper? I mean, there's nothing to keep you from doing that. It might actually be kind of interesting because Team A might actually go on a day that you don't play and get in there and change something in the dungeon or clear out a section that you were hoping to clear out. I mean, there's lots of possibilities of crossover when you have multiple groups. And actually, that's kind of what I'm doing with I'm not calling it a Westmarch, but my Hexcrawl game is I actually have 2 different groups of people that are going to be playing, and I'm loosely tracking time. I'm not going to be like, oh, you guys played on Monday, so it's Monday, and you guys are on Thursday. I'm just roughly keeping general campaign time. So if they do something in town that changes something, it will be reflected for the other players. So it'll be more of like a live world for them.
Yeah.
At least I'm going to try. We'll see. I got to make it past like session 3 and 4 first, right, Joe?
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, that you get the 4, it's a record for your campaign.
Yeah, right? Whatever. I ran a campaign for a year. I don't know what you're talking about.
Hey, we were talking about something else, Matt, and this sort of leads me to a comment I read up above was somebody said just get a bunch of devoted, dedicated players. Good luck. I mean, especially our age, right? I mean, good fucking luck. That's the problem, right? Because I'm reaching out now to everybody here in the group, and Mike, you're invited too.
Now
I'm going to start the campaign, second edition campaign. I've been running a 4.5-year campaign and 5e in Forgotten Realms, and I broke the realms and changed everything by the end of the time. It's like 8 years within the game setting, 4.5 in our time, and it should be over in the summer. And in September, I'm going to start a 2e campaign in the same fucking place, right? Coming a few months after this one that I'm doing now ended. And so I'm looking for dedicated players, right? And so I'm reaching out to everybody. It's going to be a Saturday night game, and what I'm looking for is people who can at least give me a base of 4. who are going to say, I'll be there every fucking week unless something catastrophic happens, right? And me and Matt were going back and forth about this in terms of dedicated players. And Matt had, what would you say, Matt, about the teams? Go ahead, because that was a very good fucking point you made.
About what?
The baseball teams and practice and all that shit.
Oh, yeah. Well, I find it interesting that, say, when you were 30 and 40, a lot of us were probably on a church softball team or maybe a work softball team, and you had practice every Tuesday, and then you had a game Saturday afternoon. I bet most of us, maybe it wasn't a softball, maybe you did soccer or
bowling or whatever,
chess club, whatever. We all had our little group things that we would go do. And I would bet you that most of us were far more dedicated to being there for that practice. Like Rob probably had LARP practice on Tuesday nights. But you were probably dedicated, and you would set in your mental calendar that, okay, Tuesday nights, I can't do anything because that's the night I go do this. But then when it comes to D&D, especially like I play all online because there's no people here that play cool games. They all want to play 5e where I live. And so it's so easy, much more easy for people to go, I got a headache tonight, or, I forgot about the kids, this or that. And
my wife wants me to mow the lawn.
Yeah.
Or I'm in trouble and I got to take her out to dinner.
Sit down and watch the latest episode of
Love Boat or some bullshit.
Vampires or whatever.
Yeah.
It's interesting, the dynamic where, and what really gets interesting is when you talk about, like I was saying about the softball, that's a game. But when it comes to D&D or any role-playing game, it seems like we as a society or gamers are so much, I don't know what the word is, flippant to say, sorry, something came up. Oh, sorry, Mickey's got a toy.
It's a team event.
Softball.
It's a team event, though. I mean, you got three or four other people who are counting on Big B the Mage showing up to the game because you're gonna be fighting the thing. But Big B the Mage is, I don't know, got something better to do because he was invited to a barbecue from the hot chick across the street, right? And so he's going to cancel the game to go to a barbecue with the hot chick across the street. In the meantime, the other three guys are going to get slaughtered in a dungeon. It's a team sport. It's a team event, and yet people. That's why I'm saying I'm reaching out to people now to try to gauge interest and dedication, because I know I got two, my brother, our friend Dwayne, and Matt might be in. Rob is a maybe. I know Eric can't do it because it's going to be Saturdays.
Right.
I reached out to Vance. He might be in,
and that's the reason why, like for me, I know I can commit to a game a week. I can't commit to more than that because I've already committed to live streams. I do Fridays, I do Saturday, I do a Discord hangout on Thursdays, and you get into this routine. And I like to stay happily married, so
I get it.
Rich has to get a night or two a week.
I get it. I get it. That's what Rob was saying too. He has two games. He has 2 game nights a week, so it depends. Right now, we got booked Monday and Tuesday. He might be able to do Saturday. We don't know, right? But that's the dilemma we all face, because of course we're all adults now. We're not 16-year-old snot-nosed kids with nothing to do, right? And so we got shit. We got obligations. We got life. But I think there's still lacking amongst a lot of gamers a sense of commitment to the team, whatever you want to call the team, the players, you know what I mean? And then to the commitment to the, all right, it's game night, we got shit to do.
I think a lot of that,
we have a player, I'm not going to mention names here, but we have a player in our group who's continually distracted by what's going on in his house. He has a busy social schedule, and he has his family, his wife is not very supportive of him hanging out with us every week.
What the fuck are you talking about? Now I'm kind of wondering who this is.
They're not here.
I know they're not here. I'm trying to figure out who he's talking about.
We'll discuss it. We'll discuss it
in the green room after. The green room is the place to be after the show, guys. By the way,
anyway. But the point is, he wants to, so he makes it more often than he doesn't.
Yeah.
But the thing is, I can't. It's just everybody's got different circumstances.
Yeah.
I'm lucky. I have a wife who's pretty supportive of letting me have 1 or 2 nights socially. I don't go out to the bar. I don't have a social club. Yeah. But if I applied to there was an open position on the school board when a member unexpectedly resigned and I applied for it. Now, if I have gotten that, then one of my game nights would probably gotten very iffy.
Well, your wife is cool, Rob. I mean, your wife is a cool person, and you met her where?
Oh,
go ahead, say it. Go ahead.
I
just threw that out. I don't know. I guess
at a LARP event.
Nice.
Oh, okay.
So at 9:37, people, if you got that time slot.
Well, what Rob is saying, is true, but Rob is what he's not saying. But what he's really saying is, we have so many more distractions nowadays because all of us we're pretty much of a group that started playing in the late 70s, 80s. They didn't have cell phones. You didn't have the internet. You didn't have Xbox. I mean, you didn't have all these distractions.
Whoa.
No. Okay, do you go sit at a table now? Don't tell me that when you sit at a gaming table, every MFer there has his phone out and it's sitting right near him on the table. And I have to
disagree.
As Matt
I don't disagree with that.
No, seriously.
But I had to rope it when I got out of college. I had to rope my friends into playing, and there was distractions galore. It just was a different kind. Like, like I had one guy who played 2 times and then he didn't show up and said, "Dude, where are you?" "Oh, I joined bowling league." What? I mean,
I'm a LARPer. No.
And that's my point.
But there's. I mean, the first we play out here at the warehouse, which is a great place to play because distractions are minimal out here. Yeah. There's no wives or girlfriends walking in, and there's just the cool art in the wall and stuff. But the first thing everybody ever asks is, "Hey, is the internet working?" Like, but we're not using the internet in the game. So, I got it, because the warehouse is known for having very good internet. Doug bought the highest level internet you could ever buy. So they always want to know, "Hey, is the internet working?" Like, yeah, but we're here to game. I mean, what do you get? Oh, because I want to hook up to the internet and do this with my iPad.
Download my porn for later.
Yeah, whatever. Or they want to download something.
What?
So I have spell books. I have spell books online on Facebook, and they want to. I want to download my spell book and pull it up. Why don't you just print it when you're at home? Why? So everybody's got devices out.
Kill tree, you heathen.
James Seymour, great comment. Is LARP event a euphemism for strip club?
we wish.
Rob would be so much cooler if that was true. He'd be super cool. As much as he mentions.
I heard things, but unfortunately, that was never a thing in my neck of the woods.
Yeah, but Atari and MTV aren't the same thing.
Nobody carried around their RC. Nobody carried around their Atari with them. To their game session. Like,
I really think that's
a little Defender. You guys go ahead and take your turn. I mean,
I just think that's a big part of it. I just don't see the same kind of. I just don't see the same kind of distractions. I mean, yes, Rob's right. There are different
so when I was growing up in the in the late 70s and early 80s, we had a rather large neighborhood group that did stuff together, and there was a couple kids you couldn't rely to show up to a D&D game because they're always doing sport. If they heard of a Sandlot game, they're mostly unorganized, but they heard of a Sandlot game, they would drop us in a heartbeat and be out of there.
But they weren't your gamers then. They weren't. Listen, we're talking about people right now where we're saying, listen, our prime relaxation activity is going to be spending a couple of hours, 1 or 2 nights a week, gaming, and we're willing to commit to that. Again, we're talking about spouses. I have a wife who, when we were dating, made sure that on Saturday nights I was getting into my Fantasy Grounds game of Dark Heresy or Castles and Crusades because it was important for her for me to have outside interests. And also,
you were playing Vampire. Come on.
Goth out, Eric.
And when we got married, as she put it, and this has kind of come up, she knew where I was. If I was gaming on a Saturday night with Joe and everybody else, and what we were doing, I was in the room right next to her. I could be there at 3 a.m. I wasn't at the bar. Right? You knew where I was.
In our mid to late, just after college, 24, 25, we're still playing with our college group, right? We're getting together we're losers every Friday, Saturday, whatever, right? We weren't doing anything. And at some point, we all got girlfriends at some point. So, of course, the night shifted. And so there was alternate nights, sometimes weeknights even. We were what the fuck? We're in our 20s. We could do that shit. And still drink and still get up and go to work, right? But at some point or another, when we all got the girlfriend that turned into the fiance, turned into the wife, at some point or another, every single one of those women decided they wanted to stop by to see what this D&D thing was all about because they just did not trust that we weren't going to the club or whatever doing bullshit, right? And so they all came by. We all knew the deal. It was like, okay, so-and-so's coming by tonight. We all know why. It's the new girl. We all know what the hell they're there for, and they had to check the scene out. And they sat there generally in utter confusing look on their face,
bored out of their skull,
bored and disgusted and dismayed, and they're like, and I'm dating this motherfucker, and and it's like, what the hell? And then they never came back again. That was it. And they trusted the fact that we're gonna play D&D. It's like, all right, whatever. And they generally did something with their friends, and they were happy about it, and we didn't give a fuck. We just had to get through that rite of passage with every new woman in our group.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yep.
Or if you were lucky, you had that. If you're unlucky, you had the girlfriend that wanted to play.
Oh.
And that led to our infamous no girlfriends or wives rule after about 2 years of that shit, because the girlfriend that wanted to play didn't really want to play. She just wanted to show up and bother her boyfriend, hopefully to get him so he didn't want to play ever again.
Yep.
And we're sitting there thinking, honey, he's playing D&D with us since 1982. He's going to be playing with D&D with us after you're long gone. So might as well just, he's not leaving the group for you. He's not leaving the group for you. It's okay. But yeah, they would get in there like, okay, which ones do I roll? And, but I mean, now I will say that two of the best players I ever had were, one was an ex-girlfriend of a friend. He actually quit the group. She continued to play with us for like another 2 or 3 years, which drove him insane. He couldn't believe that, but she loved it. And then we had a wife of one of the players who was actually very good D&D player. She did a good job, but other than that, it was disaster. It was disaster every time because. And then the other one was sometimes the boyfriend was so excited about the game, he wanted to bring his girlfriend. And he just couldn't believe she wasn't as excited about rolling the dice on the table and playing this game.
There's a nerd.
He just couldn't. Yeah, she just couldn't get it.
That's awesome.
So in one campaign that Tim ran, this was, you might have heard of this in stories that we would tell. I was playing a Roman knight, and there was a pair of Templars in the group and stuff like that. It was a very, very good campaign, but the two Templars were actually boyfriend and girlfriend, and the girlfriend kicked ass. She was awesome. She was competent. She was more competent than the boyfriend in some ways, and she was. And they eventually got married too. And she was a great player. So I mean, I know what you mean, Bad Mike, but I've also experienced where it really worked out rather well.
I had a few. Like I said, we had a couple, but for the most part, it was really, like you said, like Joe was saying, it was really obvious when the girlfriend would come by, like, I want to see what you guys are doing, because she thought they were going to catch us with a chick on the table stripping or something. Well, and the same thing with when the boyfriend decided, I'm going to bring my girlfriend. She really wants to play. We're like, does she really want to play?
So I have a story about Kellyanne, and she did play a couple times. She was rarely a regular player. But I was running a game store campaign up in Edinburgh, north of where I live. And she would come and she would play, if we played like 4 times a month, she would play like two or 3 times out of that. Not always there. But there was this, because it was a game store, I had to let the customer in if they wanted to play.
Yeah.
That was the rule for using the space. Well, that was fair. But there was definitely a stable core of players. And one player who was a friend with the regulars, but he wasn't such a regular. He was an asshole. And he was a right royal asshole. And for some reason, he'd come in and he sees me, and he was a male peacock. He would flare his tail feathers and try to display, and I'm looking at him. What the fuck are you doing, man?
I'm just stoned enough to really. That's interesting in my head right now. All right, go ahead.
Like he make a big deal, like he was the first one to run 5e at the game store. He just threw together a session. I announced that I was going to run a 5e playtest, and then when I got there, all I heard, he ran a 5e playtest 2 days prior to I did. And he was like bragging it, and all the rest of the guys were looking sheepless. I hope you aren't pissed, Rob, and stuff. Like, no. I don't know why he's taking such big pride in it. We're going to run our own thing. In fact, we're not going to be using the Keep on the Borderland adventure. I got my own adventure for this, and I really like that adventure. And so anyway, so back to this. So she comes, and he comes, and he was in rare form that day. I don't know. He was in a grumpy mood, bad mood. Finally, she did something. I don't remember. She probably remembers better than I did, but she really pissed her off. And she's a thief. And she passed me a note and said, I'm going to pickpocket and steal his portable hole. And she succeeded and stole his portable hole. And then, of course, 5 minutes later, he started acting up. And she holds up the portable hole and says, I have your portable hole. And he looks at her. You give that back now, or I fireball you, or lightning bolt you. And it's like, it was a dead stud off. And she said, I have a portable hole too. And she mashed them together.
Oh,
what a bitch.
And exploded it. And she knew she was going to take the hit, and she survived.
Fucking kamikaze, man.
And he didn't. He did not survive.
Oh,
and of course,
awesome.
it blew all their shit to hell and back. And I'd never seen somebody's face get so red. And he goes, he's like, I don't believe this shit. And threw his pencil down on the floor. He picked up his character sheet and he was about to rip it in two. And I bellowed, stop! What the F are you doing? And he's taken aback because I can bellow pretty loud. and he's taken back.
It's in the beard.
This is a fantasy campaign. This is not the end of the story. So freaking what, you dead. So freaking what that the portable hole went. It just went to another dimension. You got choices. You got possibility. You got a man there was raised dead. Don't freaking tear up your character sheet. But he never showed up after that. He didn't rip up his character sheet.
That's it.
He was
He's out.
just greedy enough to let the raised dead be cast on him, so his character raised, but he never did come back.
Wow.
Oh, that's funny.
But my wife, when she role plays, watch out because she's a stone cold killer.
You better watch out, Rob. But she's like a role playing. Don't piss her off, man. Just to button up the thing from before. I'm looking for committed players. I'm not reaching out. I'm not saying this here like I'm looking. Hey, yeah, send me a resume. I'm just saying what I'm looking for is committed players, and I just want people who understand that. Yeah, it's the same thing as a softball league, like Matt was saying. You know, commitment means I'll get there every week unless something big comes up, right? Now, commitment doesn't mean I'll get there unless I get a barbecue at the neighbor's house. That's what I'm looking for, right? So if I get 4 of those, I could deal then with the 2 or 3 drop-ins twice a month, maybe people. You know what I mean? But you need to have your 4 core people first, you know, and then you can deal with, someone.
Run the solo campaign. You know you want to do it.
Solo campaign.
1 player.
You've been it before, but yes. James
I only
Moore.
did it twice in 40 years, so I can't really speak about that.
It's like D&D masturbation. What is this?
No, I mean, okay, so I ran a GURPS campaign with Tim and Dwayne, and it wasn't my finest hour, but I wrecked Dwayne's ship, and I wasn't being totally fair, and he left the campaign after that, and the campaign actually ended. But about a month or 2 later, Tim said, I really want to play Draco Lindis. Dwayne went off and got involved in something else, so he wasn't readily available. So he and I started playing his mercenary. And, of course, Dwayne didn't stop talking to us. But then he started hearing about what Tim was doing, and it was just so interesting and so fascinating that he just showed up one day. Can I play? Can I bring William Endro? So he's off the beach trying to drag the pieces of his boat together, and says, yeah, he comes back to City State. And says,
it's like the scene from Godfather 3. Just when I thought I was out, they pulled me back in. Same deal.
But he wasn't quite up to speed, so that first session was hilarious because he was saying, you did what? You kidnapped who? You kidnapped the Duke? Why did you kidnap the Duke? Why are we having all these people, this army following us? What did you do?
Chasing us. They're not following you, they're chasing you.
All right, so we're coming close to the witching hour.
Yes.
James has a good question, and I'm going to throw out an answer because with the 5 of us that you see on the screen, 4 of us game together regularly. Matt less so, but it's Matt. But we do. You're hearing about Matt running games. You're hearing about Rob running games. Joe running games. I'll be running games. I used to run a lot of games. Tim Short, Greg Christopher. We rotate. And how long does it rotate? Well, it depends. It depends on. In case of Rob, Rob had an adventure. We're gonna play test. It had a beginning and an end, and how many sessions it took is how many sessions it took.
Yeah.
It was great. Joe was running the
Bronze Age thing.
A Bronze Age campaign. Right? We've played in. Well, actually, we had the Alien. Was it the
Greg did Alien for a while.
We did
Rob
the
has
Alien.
done a couple different sessions with us. Tim is running us
In Colmore Forest.
Right? Matt did run a campaign for about a year for a bit there. Yeah, he did. I'll give him that.
And Joe and Tim were in that.
Yeah.
I'm prepping a city-state campaign.
Can't wait for that.
So
That's
I
gonna be
mean,
fun.
you're dealing with a group where pretty much every player is comfortable being a GM.
Yeah.
But at the same time, everybody's able to take that step back and enjoy being a player.
Because you learn so much.
You
I
do.
never learned so much as when I started playing with all you guys and back in the Flail Snails days and now with you guys and all those games you ran on Saturday Night, Eric. I mean, I tell you, it was like college or boot camp or whatever you want to call it for DMing because like I said, I wasn't blessed like you had, Mike, a lot of people. I had a handful of people, a couple in school, my brother, my sister, maybe the dude down the street. So, and I never went to conventions and I just never knew how to do it except for a couple of people I saw do it. And so you have a certain style and you don't grow and develop because you're not exposed to other things. But when the OSR started kicking in around 2008, I'm like playing all these amazing people as a player and as a DM. I'm like, man, this is cool. And I suck. And I got to get better because if I'm going to play with them or run a game with them, I better up my game. And so it made me want to get better and learn things and read what the hell Jay Quaying a dungeon meant because I wanted to understand how to make a better dungeon so my players didn't think it was stupid. Right. And so it's like all that stuff was going on and it's an ongoing thing. I'm getting better and better. I hope I'm getting better and better, at least, I feel like it. Now I'm enjoying myself more and more. I'll give it that, so.
Well, you guys have been fun to play with. So,
well, I think in the case of our group, the fact that everybody is comfortable being a GM also makes them a better player and also makes everybody more aware of the other players' participation. And there's something that you learn this as a GM to make sure everybody's involved. But when all your players are GMs, the group just works seamlessly.
Yeah,
because they all understand the underpinnings of running it. Now we left you out of this one, Mike, but you're not in the group. Sorry.
Well, I'll tell you. So I've been DM now for 40 years. Those lazy son of a bitch SOBs. The group I'm playing in now has 3 of my 4 original players that game with me back in '79. Now we haven't been gaming together that whole time. It's just that we happen to have all collided now along with some other people. And I'm still running games for those SOBs. They are lazy motherfuckers. They just won't. I'm the eternal. I'm the only DM. I'm the eternal DM.
I had lots of those.
With me, Tim, and Dwayne, the first time we got to play was when I fired up the Gold Box full of Radiance on my IBM PC, and we all made up AD&D characters and went through Full of Radiance together. Because Full of Radiance was turn-based, so you can just we can take turn. We can take turn when we got in combat. We can take turn at each of our characters.
It's interesting. Do you guys ever my brother was talking to me about this. We were thinking about running it on Monday or Tuesday, and he wouldn't be able to do it every time. So he says maybe we could do a co-DMing thing. And I said, what the hell does that mean? He says, I mean, you mean run a game? No. I mean, just co-create stuff. Think about spitball ideas, write it down, and maybe just create the shit. And I'd play in some of the times and I won't be there. So, but that way he's more participating more. And I said, and I'm like thinking about it, I'm like, that's such a foreign concept to me because everything about my DMing creation part of it is me often sitting on the fucking porch for 3 hours looking at the sky thinking. Right? I don't know how to do that. Or the shitter or the shower or the drive to and from work. And then shit comes to me and I write it down real quick. And then it's there. And then I get all my notes together, my little scraps of paper and texts to self. And I put something together on Saturday afternoon. I told him I can't. I said, I don't play well with others in this regard because I don't know how to do that with
I have a
somebody
suggestion
else.
for you.
What?
Okay, so there are situations where co-DM share the campaign world and create material, like sort of like Gygax and Rob Kunz did back in the day. But for your situation, probably the situation that works best if you are the primary DM or your brother is, and the other guy runs. Well, you're the primary DM of the campaign.
Yeah.
Create the stuff, but your brother runs the NPCs. You talk about with NPC,
but the problem, Rob, was that he wouldn't be able to be there all the time, and that's why he wanted to do some part of it where he wouldn't be there. But I don't think that my psyche allows for that either.
Yeah, I can't share.
I can't share that.
I can be a player in a campaign, and that's awesome. But I cannot share my campaign with another GM that is. I mean, I've known Joe probably longer than I've known anybody else on this live stream.
Yeah.
And I know Joe as a player and as a GM, and he knows me both ways. And could I see us, I don't know, working on a setting together? Sure. Could I see us running that setting together?
No, never.
Sorry.
I'm too control freak.
Well, the thing is, I got to really emphasize the NPC part. Now, Tim did run a few sequences, So what happened was this was the GURPS campaign, and it was for a relatively new crew, and Tim didn't really want to play because if he played, his experience with my setting was so overwhelming that it would dominate the game, and he didn't want that. So we talked about code DMing and said, I can run the NPCs for you, Rob, and the monsters, and said, sure, okay, let's do that. But then he came up with a few ideas. So he ran a sequence where the players got captured and there were slaves on a galley ship, and he ran that, and I pretty much just ran a few token NPCs and sat by the sideline. But I was the primary DM. I was setting the tone.
I would never do that, Rob. I wouldn't enjoy it at all because running NPCs is my joy because I get to do improv, which I love doing. You know what I mean? So I would never want him to do that. And his whole point was, if I can only make 2 of the 4 games, what can I do those other weeks when he's not there? And that's why he wanted to do co-creation. He wouldn't be there in person. If he was going to be there in person, he'd run his PC. But on the other weeks where he couldn't be there, what could he do in the background? And he wanted to co-create. And I'm like, my process does not allow for that. I can't co-create a goddamn thing.
So Joe, I mean, for me, if one of you guys asked me to co-DM to run some of your NPCs, I would be glad to do it. And here's the thing. I wouldn't expect to run all the NPCs. I would say, Rob, can you take this and this? And what you would get out of it is you would get you could actually have 2 NPCs at once interacting with the party.
Yeah. I can see that. I can see that. But I just enjoy the NPC part too much to share it. That's part of it's the little joys. It's like when you make a cake and you put the icing on, you get to lick the fucking thing that applies the icing.
No, you do.
See, that's the NPCs to me, is licking the spoon. You know, that's the funny part.
Hey, Joe, here's an idea for you.
Yeah.
So I have a friend who's running, I hate to say it, a 5e game.
Yeah.
And what he's asked me to do is I am I am the head of one of his Godfather groups, one of his gangs in the like a thieves guild. That's what it is. I am acting as the thieves guild guy running the thieves guild. So every once in a while he comes and he asks me, hey, in the campaign this happened, and you had been looking at there was a fort, and I was trying to figure out a way to infiltrate it, my thieves guild. And so what I had done is orchestrated a big thing about getting the blacksmith killed so that I could insert one of my own agents in as a blacksmith.
Yeah,
so every once in a while, actually today he sent me, we do like voice messages over the phone back and forth. And he's like, hey, so I had sent one of the guys on a spying mission, and I wanted to hear what the intel from the blacksmith was. And so he told me that, and then I give him my response. And then that is a way that I can participate in his game, which I don't want to play in, but I can still be part of it. And I'm still sort of playing in some degree, but I'm having an impact on his world. Maybe your brother could try something like that, put him in charge of
Well, I mean, the whole problem is resolved because this only came up if we were going to run the game. If I was going to run the game Monday and Tuesday, I'm doing it Saturday, and he could guarantee to play on Saturday. So that the issue is resolved. I just wanted to bring it up for the point of co-DMing. Can you do it? I can't. I know I can't. I can't co-create with somebody.
Well, actually, I've actually been sort of thinking about this. So remember I said I've got 2 groups that are playing. Well, one of those groups is ended up, it's only going to be 1 player now. So I'm going to be running a solo game for him. And I'm sure none of you read my blog. Joe will probably go, you have a blog? But I've been playing solo D&D on my own. And one of the things that I've really kind of learned is I really enjoy the aspect of being a player. Bye, Joe, or bye, Mike. I
Later,
enjoy
guys.
the aspect. Hey, good night. I enjoy the aspect of rolling the dice and not knowing what the resolution is going to be or what the result is going to be, and then having to improv that. So I've actually thought about co-playing, I guess you could call it, being the GM, but also playing a character as a PC, and
you ever done it?
Generating the adventure as
you ever
we
done
play.
that though, Matt?
No, but I think I mean, I've done it when I played solo. So just adding another player, I don't know why that would be that much
It's
harder.
terrible in practice, I think, because I did it for years because as I said, we didn't have enough players. And so, okay, me as a DM, I'll run the magic user, right? Because I like mages. My brother runs a couple. My sister plays one. We get the kids down the street, played another. And so we needed the DM to have a character. And either me or my brother, we were doing it. You end up as a DM, as a younger DM, you had trouble drawing the line between the character and what you want.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I've been doing it as a solo game myself. So I'm playing the DM and the player at the same time. So I think you're right. Maturity.
That's the problem.
Being a mature player, that's yeah. If my character dies, well then it's D&D, suck it up.
Solo, to answer James' comment, solo D&D doesn't make sense to me. Well, there is a form of solo D&D. It's one of those. It's like for 5e, there's Solasta. For AD&D 1e, there's Pull of Radiance in the Gold Box series.
There's a huge community of solo D&D players. If you go and actually look on the internet, I know it's another niche, but there is a huge group of people that are playing D&D solo.
Yeah, there are supplements. There are books you can get on drive-through that will give you an engine that will work with pretty much any RPG.
Yeah, interesting.
That's a whole other topic. Witching Hour.
Yes, it is.
Witching Hour. We've already lost Mike. My camera is gone all blurry on me.
Haywire here.
Yeah, he fell to the old trap of a girl.
You see?
Yeah, my trap of a girl is my niece.
She's over tonight?
No, she's expecting a phone call.
Gotcha. Eric, speaking of your niece, we're all going to the last time your niece was on the camera with us, we were doing the whole dress up and do the Olivia Newton-John outfit look. Right. I know you still owe us all.
I still owe the Olivia Newton-John / wrestling.
The Macho Man Randy Savage.
It's probably going to be done Saturday night at North Texas.
Okay.
We plan on auctioning it off. So Rach will record me.
Okay. Maybe you're not going to do it in Central Park?
Actually, no. But maybe I'll do a live stream from the con. Hey, listen, 450 people will see me. So it wasn't Central Park, by the way. It was going to be Forest Park, where maybe a half dozen people would have seen me. But we'll get me dressed up for the
all right.
for the convention.
That's cool.
So don't worry. I embarrass myself freely.
For a
I
good
will.
cause. You raised a lot. How much did we get that night?
We got
Was
like
it
over
over 1,000?
1,500. It was
1,500, yeah. It was a
And
good
Shannon
cause,
wants
man.
to do it again with Joe.
And me dressed up in spandex? Dude, you don't want to see
I
that. Nobody
second this
wants to see
motion.
that.
Rob,
Nobody
do you
wants to see
agree?
that.
Joe must do it.
Joe. Joe's the way. Joe
Oh,
is the way.
God. Did I hire
All
a
right.
I
body
could
double?
just live without seeing you guys in.
Yeah, you're right. You really could.
No, you can't, Rob. You really need it. Folks, huge thank you to our live stream audience. The comments, the questions were amazing. Huge thanks to Bad Mike for dropping in.
Absolutely.
It was really nice. He was pounding away on YouTube, pinging and pinging and pinging. You gotta let me in. You gotta let me in. So huge thanks to Mike. Huge thanks as always to Rob and Matt for joining in. Joe, I don't have to thank. This was a regular for us.
Yeah, that's what we do. That's how we roll.
Listen, as always, we're in the midst of the world of COVID. Use your common sense. Nobody hears your father. Nobody's going to hold your hand. Okay? Make your own decisions. Just make them wiser. That goes for gaming too, right? Other than that, be safe, be well. God bless. Roll those dice, roll them well. And back tomorrow, myself and Rach for a Gamer's Health live stream.
Nice.
8 o'clock. All right, folks.
Later, guys.